The big trending phrase making its way around right now is comic book fatigue. Comic book movies have obviously become the dominant genre at the box office. As a matter of fact, it was just announced that Marvel Studios alone have just passed the $10 billion mark for their collective films to date. But ever since the original X-Men film back in 2000, people and naysayers have been predicting the fall of the genre. As a matter of fact, here's an email I received that sort of sums up some people's view of the longevity potential of the comic book genre. It reads, "Sure, it's good, and it's going to make money, but enjoy it while it lasts. You can already feel people getting tired of this constant barrage of superhero movies. I've counted at least 10 or more they say are in the works right now." Yawn. 3 years tops, and this genre will go the way of the Western. Pretty pessimistic, but here's the thing. That movie he was talking about was Batman Begins. I actually received this email in 2005. So according to the prediction, the comic book movie genre died back in 2008, and they just never bothered to tell anyone. Yet every year, people prophesy the end of the comic book genre anytime now. This year, no different, except the phrase they're using is comic book fatigue. The inference is that people are growing tired of the genre. So is that the case? Is comic book fatigue a real thing in the film fandom world? Maybe for some, but the facts and numbers tell a totally different story. First of all, if this comic book fatigue were really setting in already, one of the first things to go would be the film community's excitement and anticipation of the movies. So consider this statistic. Despite the fact that only 3% of 2016's feature film releases will be comic book movies, according to a study conducted by online movie ticketing giant Fandango, a full 30% of the most anticipated movies of the year by fans are comic book movies. Only 3% of the movies, yet 30% of the most anticipated list. Where's the comic book fatigue? Or let's look back at the aforementioned Batman Begins, the first film of the newly rebooted character to rave critical and audience reviews. Batman Begins made a respectable $374 million at the worldwide box office. Now, fast forward to 2016 and Deadpool, another first film for a newly rebooted character, albeit monumentally less popular or well-known than Batman, and had the added hindrance of an R rating. And yet, in this era of supposed comic book fatigue, Deadpool made more than double what Batman Begins made at over $760 million. More than the first Iron Man, more than the first Captain America, more than the first Thor, Ant-Man, even more than the relaunched Man of Steel. Where is this comic book fatigue they speak of? And since we're talking about 2016, so far 3 comic book movies have come out: Deadpool, Batman v Superman, and Captain America Civil War. Collectively, these 3 movies have made over $2.6 billion and counting at the box office. Do you know how long it's been since 3 comic book films back-to-back made that much money? You'd have to go all the way back to 2012 when The Avengers, The Amazing Spider-Man, and The Dark Knight Rises all came out successively. And never once did it ever happen before that. Where is this comic book fatigue they speak of? And do you notice that nobody talks about comedy fatigue? I mean, so far in 2016, 5 major comedies have been released, not counting Neighbors 2, which just opened this weekend. And out of all of them, only 1 has made over $100 million. Just 1. But just because films like My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2, The Boss, or Dirty Grandpa haven't been massive hits, doesn't get people asking if comedy fatigue is set in, nor should it. And besides, claiming comic book fatigue suggests that all comic book movies are essentially the same. Sure, if the audience was being subjected to the same movie over and over again, a law of diminishing returns could set in. However, that's just not the case. Today, movies in the comic book genre are wildly different from each other in both substance and tone. I mean, just this year we've had Captain America Civil War and Deadpool. One movie takes a deep look at the philosophical repercussions when destructive consequences come about as a result of heroic actions, and where the line should be drawn between authoritative accountability and freedom to choose, between service and sacrifice. Then the other movie is about a revenge-seeking maniac threatening to masturbate with his tiny regrown hand in front of his roommate and kills bad guys with Zambonis. They're completely different experiences. So is it fair to say that the movie-going audience is suffering from comic book fatigue? Only if you want to completely ignore the mountain of statistics, numbers, and facts that all suggest otherwise. The comic book genre today is a thriving, successful, and generally high-quality series of films being put out by multiple studios reaching previously unheard-of audience numbers. Will it last forever? No, nothing ever does. But for now, the present is strong and the future looks even brighter. Suicide Squad, anyone? Well, that will do it for our show this week. My name is John Campea, and thanks for joining us on Film HQ.